This is the Real Change Wilmington Podcast, episode 60. Unique is guaranteed at Alma's Attic with our guest today, Joni Palmer.
There's the large businesses that bring people here. So I think the job of the small businesses is once those people are here, let's keep them here. So if we can keep them in town and keep the dollars here in town to advance the community, I think that's the importance of the small businesses.
What is going on, everyone? This is your host of the Real Change Wilmington podcast, Dustin Pierce. Real Change is a positive, constructive, and lighthearted source of local news, events, and resources. In our podcast, we interview leaders of local organizations to help squash rumors and encourage a greater sense of pride in our community. We have a really great episode for you today with our guests, Brad and Joni Palmer, who are the owners of Alma's Attic at their new location. You may remember them from their old location in the strip mall out on Ronback. But about a year ago, Brad and Joni purchased the building that the old Song and Story music studio was renting by the Kava House. So Joni is originally not from Wilmington, but actually relocated to the area through an old corporate position that she had at Walmart. Joni and Brad met on a dating app, Match.com, during the Christmas season, which is very appropriate considering the timing for this podcast. And the couple used to sell items consignment on the side at various stores, including in Lebanon and also at Sugar Tree Mills here in Wilmington. Then one day, unfortunately, Joni's position at Walmart was eliminated. But on the upside, she was able to use the money she got from severance to help start her own business, which is Alma's Attic. And it was neat to learn how she's able to survive having a small business in today's economy with companies like Amazon making things so convenient to buy online. So she talks about how her own online store, her eBay store, actually makes up 50% of her business. And now 50% of that business is selling antique farm toys, which is just a niche that her and Brad stumbled into after purchasing some antique farm toys from an auction and selling them quickly. And so they continued to buy more and sell more. At the end of the podcast, Joni shares a piece of wisdom from her grandmother about having a desire to accept the things in life that we cannot change and the courage to change the things that we can change, and then the wisdom to know the difference. And I think that Joni's story and how she tells it really embodies that piece of wisdom and would definitely have made her grandmother proud. Finally, what I really love about Joni's story and why we highlighted it in the episode's intro is just her passion for local business. So she shares how the value of large companies and large events are to bring people to Wilmington, but how small businesses add a certain charm to our city that make people want to stay here and call this place home. So without further ado, let's bring in Brad and Joni to share their story and get this podcast started. Joni Palmer and Brad Palmer, welcome to the Real Change Wilmington podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting us today at your location. So before we get into your business, we like to talk about who you are and where you're from. So tell us what brought you to Wilmington.
Well, I actually grew up in north central Kansas on a farm. My mom was a homemaker, stayed at home except for a short period of time that she worked at the local grocery store. My dad worked for the gas company, and he also raised cattle. So a little bit of farm life and city life both. Went to school in Joplin, Missouri, so that took me several hours away from home. While I was in college, I started working for Walmart, and what I thought was just going to be a job to get me through college, I fell in love with and turned it into a retail career. Went into management, worked for several different stores, and it was a transfer for Walmart, a promotion actually that brought me to Ohio. And I thought it was going to be a temporary thing, but then I met Brad, and the rest is history, as they say.
How'd you guys meet?
Online, Match.com.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I was on vacation in Maggie Valley, North Carolina for Christmas with my parents and my children when we, whatever pinged or whatever you call that back then, but that's how we met.
That's awesome.
Had our first date on Christmas Eve.
Wow.
Yeah. Christmas Eve or the 23rd, one or the other.
One of the two, yeah.
That's romantic.
Yeah.
Brad, do you want to tell us where you're from and what brought you to Wilmington?
Well, I'm from Greenfield, so, just down the road. And I've been here, 31, 32 years. And I actually moved here and worked for the Bushes that own Bush Auto Place.
Okay.
So that's what brought me to Wilmington. But I've been here a long time.
And Joni said you're in the death industry now?
Yeah, so I work for a company called Service Corporation International, and I grew up working in a funeral home in Greenfield, Ohio. and didn't pursue funeral service as a career initially. But then later in life I did, and I'm almost 20 years now in funeral service. But yeah, I oversee our funeral homes, cemeteries, crematories throughout what's called the Great Lakes Territory, which is Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, West Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania.
That sounds pretty important.
Well, I don't know about important. It's busy though.
Yeah. So do you guys have any children?
So yes, 4.
Okay.
So 3 girls and a boy, and 7 grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
6 grandchildren.
6.
Yes.
Unless there's something I don't know.
No. Yeah, 6 grandchildren. 4 boys, 2 girls.
Are they local as well?
All but one. Yeah.
Nice.
They all live within a couple of miles of here.
Very cool. So what are some of your guys' hobbies outside of work?
We go to a lot of concerts. That's something that I truly enjoy. I am a country music fan, the old stuff, good stuff, and some pop and rock, but primarily country. And we travel within an hour and a half and go to a lot of concerts. I play the piano. I don't do that as often as I should, but I play piano. I like to read, watch TV, normal things.
Did you inherit the piano that was in this building when you bought it?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, funny story. The piano actually came from our house, and we go to a lot of auctions because of the business. And there was a piano that was in better condition on one of the auctions. So we bought it and took it home and brought the one from home here.
So do you ever play the piano here then when you're in your downtime?
Not often,
Okay.
but occasionally I'll sit down and play.
That's fun. So one question we always ask our guests is, what's a defining moment of your life that's helped make you who you are or help shape your values and personality?
I've thought about that. And honestly, I don't know that there is one defining moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think it's more just small things throughout my life that have led me to where I am. You know, it was scholarships that led me to the college that I attended. It was my job at Walmart that led me to coming to Ohio. And, without that, I would have never met him. Without meeting him, I would not be running Alma's Outfit.
Archie is on the computer currently. As long as it keeps recording, buddy. So you were saying about how one thing led to another.
Yeah, just one small thing in life leads to another, and that creates the path that you go down in your life is kind of how I look at it.
And you've embraced that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have that one defining moment, and for me, that's just not the case.
Yeah.
It's smaller things.
That's a positive view on it, I think. So now we kind of covered your background. Let's talk about Alma's Attic. First of all, where did the name come from?
So when we were talking about how to name the store, Brad was very basic. Well, why don't we just call it Palmer Antiques? And while that makes a lot of sense, I wanted something that had a little bit more ring to it. I don't know. And I like alliterations, a name that starts with the same letter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, well, I need an old-fashioned name. And all of a sudden it struck me, my grandmother's name was Alma. And I thought, it doesn't get any more old-fashioned than that. So then I was just trying to come up with a word that paired well with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we came up with Alma's Attic.
Alma's Attic. Okay, I think I was saying it wrong. I'm sorry.
No, not a problem. I think it's kind of a regional thing.
Yeah.
Because the few people that I've heard of back in Kansas where I grew up, it was pronounced Alma, and almost everybody that says the name here pronounces it Alma. So
interesting.
Not an issue.
Okay. My grandma's name is Marcina, which is a very weird name. Everyone always calls her Marcina. So I guess I kind of relate to it a little bit. So what inspired you to start Alma's Attic? Was there at the time?
You did.
Okay.
You did. Antiques is something that we've always enjoyed. Brad's parents actually dealt in antiques as a hobby for years. And so he was familiar with the business that way. And it was something that I've always had an interest in. So we started it as a hobby while I was still working at Walmart. We had booths in 3 different antique stores. And Walmart did some restructuring and my position was eliminated. So I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And as we discussed it, we decided, well, if we're ever going to do this, now's the time. So we used the severance money, and that was our startup costs for the most part. And that's where Alma's Attic came from.
So what year was that?
That was 2018.
18. So you were in different antique shops? You had a space in antique shops?
Yeah. So we were actually at the mill here in town.
Okay.
And we had a booth at Miller's Antiques in Lebanon and Ohio Valley Antique Mall down in Fairfield.
But none of that was Alma's Attic. That was Palmer Antiques.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Alma's Attic didn't come into play until we opened the brick and mortar, the original brick and mortar here in Wilmington.
Right.
Okay.
In 2018.
Yeah.
So when you were in those antique shops, did you have like a specialty thing that you kind of niched into, that you like a certain type of items that you had there?
That is something that actually makes our business unique, is we have never really specialized. We deal in a wide variety of things. As we've progressed over the years, we have started somewhat specializing in farm toys, which was a complete accident. We happened at an auction to find a few that were a good price, and we thought, we should be able to sell those. And they sold very quickly, and we thought, well, we need to buy some more. So we went out and we bought more, and those sold quickly. And so we've grown that inventory over the past, I guess, 4 years, probably, maybe 5. And that is our number one seller is the farm toys.
Interesting.
You'd be hard pressed to find a business in the Midwest that sells more farm toys than we do. I mean, I don't have any statistics to prove that, but I mean, we've been as far as Red Cloud, Nebraska to buy toys to bring back here to sell. So, I mean, we buy toys from everywhere. And if you look in the back, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of farm toys back there.
So speaking of like going that far to get the toys, where do you guys source most of your stuff at? Is it real estate sales, or how are you finding items?
Most of it is from auctions. We do some estate sales as well. We buy from individuals. Sometimes people will walk in the front door and they have an item they want me to look at, and I may or may not be interested. Sometimes there's a situation where somebody is downsizing, or there's been a death in the family and they're moving out of a home, and they'll call us and we'll go in and look at everything and put together an offer for the items that we're interested in. So we acquire things that way also.
Well, there are times that we have an appraisal business in conjunction with Alma's Attic. So we have another business called Palmer Appraisal. So Joni is a certified estate appraiser, and people will call for an appraisal. And when you're doing a little discovery, it really isn't what they're really looking for is someone to buy it on. They just want to get a value for it. So, there are times that people will call for an appraisal when really what they want is to sell the stuff. Mm-hmm. So if we appraise it, we won't typically buy it because that's a conflict of interest. But if they're truly just wanting to sell it, then we would, make an offer to buy it if we're interested, in lieu of actually appraising the items.
So it's kind of a divergent question, but how does the appraisal business work? So how do you make money on appraising items? Do you like take a percentage of whatever they sell it for? Or?
No, it's not commission based at all. It's an hourly rate.
Okay.
So, or if it's just a couple of items, it's charged by the item.
And that was an accidental thing as well, because sometimes there's not a lot of foot traffic in your store. So what do you do in the meantime? Well, what could we do to add to Alma's Attic? And so Joni spent however long it was, the first year, going through the Ashford Institute to become certified an appraiser, and then getting all the credentials. And then, we needed to launch that business as well. But we've done litigation appraisals, insurance appraisals, curiosity appraisals, estate appraisals, probate appraisals. So there are only just a very, very small number of certified estate appraisers, I think, in the state.
There aren't a lot. When you're a personal property appraiser, there's no regulation for that. So the state doesn't require there to be any licensure. So, anybody that operates an antique store, people can ask them their opinion, but they haven't had any training as far as putting together a formal appraisal report. And I think that brings a level of comfort to people, and trust when they know that you've done some studies and that you do have some sort of credentials besides just being in the business.
Yeah. So you said you do curiosity appraisals. What does that mean exactly?
Just people that they're not interested in selling, or it's not for insurance. They just have something and they don't really know what it's worth and they want to know.
I was thinking of like those curiosity shows that go on. They have embalmed stuff and all kinds of weird things like that. So it's not that, right?
No, okay. Just, I've seen this. I don't know what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah,
Is it real? Is it original? Does it have any value? That kind of stuff. And, most of that stuff just walks in the door. People will bring it in. They're typically not going to pay us to come out to their home and appraise or look at something that's just a curiosity. They'll typically bring it in here.
Yeah. So let's talk about how you guys I'm calling it distribute your items. So you have your brick and mortar store and you also have an online store as well, correct?
Yes.
So which one came first?
Well, I guess really the online store came first because when we were still selling just from our booths before we ever became Alma's Attic, we formed our eBay presence that way. And then when we formed Alma's Attic, then we transitioned our eBay business into an actual eBay store. So now it's Alma's Attic Wilmington is the eBay store. And we have our own website, and it's just been within the past month that we've added commerce to our almasattic.com or almasatticwilmington.com website. So that's new for us.
So I assume you had some success online, which gave you some more confidence to open up the brick and mortar store. Is that right?
Yeah, eBay has been really good for us. At this point, about 50% of our business, maybe 60 some months percent of our business is online, and we ship all over the world. eBay makes it really easy to do global shipping. You send it to their warehouse that used to be in Kentucky and now it's in Chicago, but they forward it from there and they take care of all of the international fees and tariffs and anything that is required for that. And we've sent items to Australia and Denmark and France and Germany and all over the place. So
Wow.
that's interesting.
Yeah, and Joni does such a good job with that. Is we've got thousands and thousands and thousands of online reviews, and as of yesterday, we had 99.7% satisfaction rating on our eBay store, which in my mind is a huge accomplishment when you're selling stuff that isn't new. Because most everything we sell is vintage. So in the way that she describes it, she's very transparent with any damage, imperfections, nicks, scratches, whatever the case may be. If someone has an issue with the product when it gets there, we make it right. So for someone selling used items to have a near 100% satisfaction rating, in my mind, it is a pretty incredible feat.
Yeah, something to be proud of for sure. So one question I want to ask is, I would assume that brick and mortar stores are struggling these days, quote unquote, because of Amazon online businesses. So my question is, what is the business model of your brick and mortar location? And what is like your niche to help separate you and makes your business sustainable and successful?
I think the fact that it is unique, and that's kind of our catchphrase, is unique is guaranteed. So every time you walk in, you're going to find something different, something that wasn't here the last time, something that you won't find anyplace else. And I think people like to support a local business that is like that, where they can't find the things anywhere else. And so that's really, in my mind, the niche that we fill is, just unique treasures and gifts that people can't find someplace else, as well as the ability to potentially find specific items for them. I've got a list of names and items that they're interested in, so that if I happen to stumble across that specific item that somebody's looking for, I can give them a call and say, hey, I've got the opportunity to purchase this. I can send them a picture and go from there.
That makes sense. Do you feel like your new location is going to help you be more successful?
I think so. I think it adds a quaintness, which works really, really well with antiques. It pairs with the business model. And especially moving into the holidays, I think people think about traditions and they think about how things used to be with the holidays. And so when you add the charm of an old home, I think that's going to draw more people in than just being in the strip mall.
Yeah. And it's nice that you guys are more downtown now too. So hopefully walking traffic, people doing holiday things will want to stop in and browse at least.
Yeah. I've had just a very, very brief conversation with Brad from the Kava House, and we haven't had the chance to sit down and discuss it any further, but we're hoping to eventually work out something to work together with some sort of program that drives business back and forth between the two of us. So watch for that in the future.
Yeah, like a coffee tasting, antique browsing kind of situation or something.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So talking about the uniqueness of your items, can you kind of tell us what items you do carry in your store and maybe what are some of your favorites, your best sellers?
Yeah. So we already talked about the farm toys. We carry furniture, lamps, artwork. The artwork ranges anywhere from antique artwork. We've got right above us here, we've got Currier and Ives prints that date to the late 1800s. And we have signed and autographed prints from much more recent artists. We've got oil paintings, so a wide variety there of paintings and prints. We've got lamps and pottery, glassware. We've got new items, jams, jellies, candles, wax melts. We carry a whole lot of Christmas items, both new and vintage. Those perform well for us. We've got kitchen towels, rugs, hot holders. What am I missing?
Well, people walk in and they look and they say, where did you get all of this? Or look at all this stuff. I said, we have one of everything and two of some of it. So, there is just an incredible amount of stuff. And earlier you talked about the uniqueness and I think it adds to the fact is that we own all of this. There's no consignments. It's not like if you walk into an antique mall and their booths where you may find the same item in 16 or 17 different areas, but you got to look all over to find it. Where here, if you're looking for milk glass, it's going to be all merchandised in one area. So you can go right to the milk glass and make the selection you want. If you're looking for, depression glass, it's all together. If you're looking for Fenton glass, it's all merchandised together. And I think that makes for a good shopping experience as well. So that you can see everything in that category in one area of the store.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
And so in Joni's retail background, it is somewhat merchandise like a retail store instead of maybe haphazardly placed throughout the building.
So what are some of your favorite items then, personally?
Personally, I love the glass and the pottery. Fenton glass, pottery, whether that's Roseville or Rookwood, I'm just drawn to that. I think it's pretty. It's not our best selling categories by any means, but that tends to be probably my favorite.
You kind of already mentioned, it sounds like the farm toys are your biggest sellers?
By far.
By far.
Yeah. I would say online, probably 50% of my eBay sales are farm toys.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you deliver all around the world, even like to Australia and things like that. And you kind of mentioned how eBay makes that really easy to do. Do you partner with any local companies at all?
We haven't. Any local delivery we do ourselves. So occasionally we have the kids help us with that, but primarily if you have an item delivered, you're going to see Brad and me.
Do you guys charge extra for that kind of stuff or no?
Typically it's a $30 delivery fee locally, and by locally I mean within 20, 30 miles. We go to Hillsboro, Washington Courthouse, Xenia, any of the local areas we've delivered to Lebanon. And then for an additional fee, we've met people further away. I've met somebody in Cincinnati before. I've met somebody in Columbus before. It was actually an eBay sale, but he was heading north someplace and delivered something all the way up close to, was it Canton? I think.
Canton or Mansfield or somewhere up there. We delivered, was it chairs or a table and chairs or something? I was going north and the lady was out of town, so she gave us the code to her garage. So I just backed in and put the key in, put the door up, or put the code in, put it in her garage, put the door down and left. And I think she had cameras, and I think she called you and said, well, I see your husband was just there and made the delivery. So, just whatever works. And I think that was a hutch of some sort that I met those people north, and they came from Philadelphia or Erie or somewhere in Pennsylvania. And we met halfway to deliver whatever that hutch was. I think it was a hutch or a cabinet of some sort.
Do you guys sell on Facebook Marketplace at all?
I've tried that and have not had a lot of success with Marketplace. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people locally do, but for whatever reason, that just hasn't worked very well for us.
I would imagine it's a different kind of audience. Maybe not people looking for vintage items like eBay's kind of like that niche, maybe more than Facebook marketplaces.
Probably so. And I think the people that are searching marketplace on a regular basis might be more people like us that are dealers that are not wanting to pay anywhere close to retail price. They're wanting to get a bargain and then flip it.
That makes a lot of sense.
We've given away a lot of stuff on Marketplace. So as we were redoing this building, and tearing walls down, we had insulation. Someone came and got the insulation to put in their garage. All of the fluorescent lighting we took out, someone come and got. There were all the doors. So all of when it was the music studio in the back, it was broken up into 5 or 7 rooms and each had doors. And I put the doors on Marketplace for free, and someone drove over here from Kentucky to get all of the doors and whatever. So it was a good way to keep it out of the landfill and help someone out. So we gave away a lot of stuff on Marketplace.
I guess we did sell some of the fixtures that we didn't need out of the old store.
Yeah, the old store fixtures we sold on Marketplace.
So that's a good transition to my next question about like challenges you guys have faced and how you've overcome these. I imagine that moving was also a big challenge in renovating.
It was a huge challenge, to say the least. The renovations weren't as big of a challenge necessarily as the move itself, because we purchased the building about a year before our lease was up. So we had a larger amount of time for the renovations. We hired people to do the exterior, but the interior work we primarily did ourselves. I mean, we brought in an electrician to do that work, but as far as tearing down walls, painting, and all of those types of things, we did that. So it took the entire year to get that done, since we were doing it ourselves on evenings and weekends. But that brings an additional source of pride when your hands have been the ones that did all of the work. It makes you even more proud of the building and the transition that it's gone through.
And we didn't end up divorced. There were times I thought that might be the case.
Wow.
I mean, it was an incredible amount of work, but I agree that the move, because I mean, just look around. I mean, and this isn't all of it. We didn't bring everything from the other store to here. My best friend owns the storage facility out on the other end of town, and I don't know how many units we have out there. 8?
Something
so
like that.
We have 8 10 by 20 units stacked to the ceiling of stuff that we never got into the old store, or stuff from the old store that we haven't brought here yet, because we didn't want it to feel cluttered. I mean, it's plenty crowded, but we wanted to keep it shoppable. And then there are times that someone will call and say, we have a house full of stuff we'd like to sell, and we buy it. Well, we don't have any place to put it. So, we'll put it in the storage units that we have out there. I mean, now you can barely get the doors up on them. There's so much stuff in them. So hopefully we're able to cycle some of that stuff through as the holiday shopping season comes up.
It's been kind of interesting as we've made the transition, because when we did the move, and the square footage is about the same here as it was at our previous location, but just the layout is so different. So we weren't able to fit everything in here that we had at the other store, but yet the feel, it is larger. I can't tell you how many people come in and say, "Oh my goodness, you have so much more stuff. I never saw this at the old store." And they feel like this space is much larger, even though the square footage is about the same. So the fact that my customers are seeing more and feeling like it's a larger, roomier environment is a very positive thing.
It's a more fun experience too, to kind of browse the different nooks and crannies of the building as you're buying antiques, opposed to being in a shopping strip center, I suppose.
Yeah, and we're happy we were able to, salvage this old building, because I don't think it had paint on it in 20 years. And, there was a considerable amount of work to be done outside. It was, all new roofs. We had to do electrical upgrades. And then it was if you went back and look at our Facebook page, we did a contest on Sherwin-Williams actually did the designs for us and gave us 3 options of exterior paint, and then we allowed the community to vote on which of the paint schemes that they voted for. And this was the paint scheme that you see is what was chosen by the community. And then the books, you'd say, oh, well, we bought the old Song in a Story building, and people say, I don't know where that is. Oh, it's the building with the books. Oh, I know right where that is. And then Tim Wiederhold did all of the painting, and then Tim's mother did the books. And if you look at the books, it actually has our children and grandchildren's names on the binders. And then one of the books is called Alma's Attic. And so she customized each of those books to have some significance to us as a family.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
And speaking of A Song in a Story, I just want to mention when we say that there was a lot of work that needed to be done on the building, that is in no way a negative comment toward Paul and Cindy or A Song in a Story. I think what a lot of people don't realize is that Paul and Cindy did not own the building. They were renting the space. And as far as renters go, the amount of work and effort that they put in is incredible. They put a lot of money into a building that they didn't own, keeping the HVAC systems up and running and in very good condition. So I just want to make sure that people understand that we're very thankful for Paul and Cindy especially was incredibly helpful. She reached out several times and has been very, very supportive of us as we did the transition into this building.
Yeah, certainly didn't mean to be a dig on them, so I appreciate you clarifying that.
Yeah, I guess I already knew their story, so I didn't take it that way. But yeah, I guess for everyone else who doesn't know that, it's probably good to clarify. I feel like,
what's this light switch for, and what does this key go to, and how does this work? And so,
I really do appreciate when business owners own their own buildings, especially in our downtown, because then they have more pride in, especially like you see like Kava House, Brad owns that building, and you can see how much work he puts into it, and I think the community benefits from that. So it's pretty cool you guys have invested in that. You kind of already touched on this, but what are some of your proudest accomplishments or impacts that you've had for those of you served?
I think probably moving into this building is probably my proudest accomplishment, and just survival, being able to 6 years after the fact still be in business and still be growing and learning and changing, because that's the only way that you can survive in retail is you have to change with the times. And I mean, we mentioned it briefly with our farm toys, that wasn't a business that we intended to ever get into. But when you see that that's something that the public is wanting, you have to provide that. So I try to continue doing that as I see other things that people are interested in. I try to bring different things into the store and make those changes as necessary.
What are some changes that you've made as a business owner? And obviously, Alma's Attic was your first business, I assume.
Yes.
So like, how have you grown and changed, learned things and pivoted, and maybe processes that you've done or whatever?
I think learning that free is not always free, and that just because it's cheap doesn't mean it has value. Because when we first started this, oh, well, that's cheap, we can buy it and sell it. Well, it's cheap for a reason, because no one wants it. So many, 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 many times we have taken truckloads of things we thought were great bargains to Goodwill and donated them because they were cheap for a reason. So I would think that becoming more selective about what you offer and what we have, and the retail space is somewhat limited, so you need to make sure that you're filling that retail space with something that is sellable, not something that's going to sit there for 3 years because it has no one has any interest in it. So I think that's a big thing that we've learned.
Yeah, definitely.
And we don't deliver upstairs anymore.
We got into a crazy situation, old house in Hillsboro, and the customer had purchased a large antique hutch from us too. And when we agreed to deliver, he failed to mention that he was wanting these items upstairs. And it wasn't even a straight staircase. It was a staircase that went partway up and then had a tight 90-degree turn, and it didn't work so well.
That was one of those times. Another time we almost got divorced.
Oh my gosh.
So then we made the criteria as we will get it into the house, but anything beyond into the house is the purchaser's responsibility.
Yeah. I think perseverance is good. You learn a lot. Like, I own a business too, and there's a lot of things you do in the beginning that don't make a lot of sense later on. Do you find your niche and what makes money and stuff? So,
right.
Yeah. Next question is about rumors and stigmas. So we always ask this question just to see what are some things that you've heard about Alma's Attic or yourself online isn't true, that makes you laugh, and that you maybe want to just, I guess, address?
One that it is always amusing to me is that people can be so literal. They see the name Alma's Attic and they immediately make the assumption that I'm Alma. And I don't mind. People come in and they call me that, and there are people that if they happen to be listening are going to be surprised to learn that my name is Joni because I've been answering to Alma for 6 years.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And then, you know, when people do ask the question and they want to know where the name came from, and I say, oh, that's my grandmother's name. Oh, did your grandmother originally own the business? No, I named it in her honor. Yeah. Or some people have literally asked, oh, did your original items come out of your grandmother's attic? No. Yeah. It's just a name.
Yeah. That's funny. That's really funny. So one thing that I saw, this is like funny, but it was about your teddy bears being scary.
Oh, that was the
that review, but you have a lot of teddy bears upstairs, a lot of dolls.
Tons of them. There was a collector who passed away, and her daughter was looking to sell the collection and reached out to us. And so we went and looked at the items and made an offer and came to an agreement with her. And I believe she said the original collection was over 900 bears. And I don't think it was that many that we actually got. I think it was closer to maybe 400. So maybe part of the collection had been dispersed before we purchased the rest of it. But a lot of them are bears that people have never seen before. Robert Rakes is the designer, and they were popular collector items, never toys. They were designed as collector items in the 1980s, and they're plush bears that have a wood face and wood paws on their hands and feet, if you want to call them that. So having the wooden carved faces is what gives them a unique look, and some people, yes, think that they're creepy.
And then we had the grizzly bear too.
Oh yes, we did. It was a life-size 5.5 foot handmade, custom, one-of-a-kind stuffed grizzly bear.
It wasn't a mount. It wasn't a real bear. So she had this bear made by a designer. And so it was in the store out here. And then we took it to the Corn Festival one year. And then I actually delivered it to a house in Washington Courthouse. But I think there's probably pictures on our Facebook page of this bear traveling around and me throwing it over my shoulder and carrying it. But it really did get lots of conversation, was that grizzly bear.
I can't tell you how many people stopped at the Corn Festival and took pictures with that bear.
And kids.
Yeah. Did it have teeth and everything?
Oh, yes. It had teeth, claws, and the claws were adjustable, you know, in the hands and in the feet. And yeah, it was.
But none of it was real.
Nope.
Interesting.
If she had it made.
Anything else?
I don't know. You seem to have a whole list over there, which is interesting.
We mentioned, we're going to talk about like the people that question pricing at all, or things during your move, confusion in the community about your move, but we kind of already talked about those things, I think.
No, I meant the rumors. I thought maybe you might have some more rumors.
Those were two, and then I guess I had common questions that your customers ask. Like the Alma was pretty funny, Alma thing.
Yeah, that probably is the question that I get asked the most is where the name came from.
Second one's probably, where do you get all this stuff?
Yeah, those are the two that we get asked the most. I think the only other, I guess misunderstanding might be the word for it. People seem to have this concept that if you own a business, that you have unlimited funds. I don't know why people have that concept, but it seems to be the case. And there was a point in time several years ago that some kids came in asking for a donation. And unfortunately, I had already exceeded my donation budget for the month. And there was some negativity posted online about, a business owner that won't give to my kids, but yet they want us to shop local. And, sometimes people don't understand that you have a budget at home and you have to have a budget at a business also.
Yeah, that's so funny. So we recently had someone from Paula Greenhouse who mentioned the same thing, that people have a misconception that business owners are just filthy rich.
Right.
And they're not. There's people that have a job they own. So, yeah. All right. Last couple questions here. Why is what you do important to our community, and what keeps you passionate?
Like I mentioned earlier, I think part of the importance is that we're unique. But I think another thing that's important, not just about our business, but about a lot of the small businesses here in town, is, there's the large businesses that bring people here. There's the Roberts Center that brings in crowds, and they have a lot of conventions and events there. And there's a lot of events out at the Equestrian Center. So I think the job of the small businesses is, once those people are here, let's keep them here instead of them having to go someplace else to have entertainment outside of the convention that is their purpose for being here. So if we can keep them in town and keep the dollars here in town to advance the community, I think that's the importance of the small businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I think for you also, it gives people a place to go because you have regular customers that really just come in to chat.
Yes.
They just, this is an older business and we do have a lot of older clients that just come in and just a place to be and a place to sit. As you'll notice, there's a stool by the front counter and people will just come in and chat. So, I think they walk around and they reminisce. Oh, I remember this when I was a kid. I remember my parents had one of these, and then they'll just sit and talk. Yeah. And I think that's a benefit to the community as well, is
a
place to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since moving to the new location, we now have a store cat. And Archie has become quite famous and popular in Wilmington. And I do literally have people who come in just to see Archie. There's one gentleman in particular, and he's never bought a thing, but he comes in to see Archie at least once a month. He stops in and sees Archie.
I thought I went to your other location. You had a cat there too. Was that not? You didn't have a cat? Okay.
No.
We brought the dog in and dressed her up for Christmas, but that was just a couple of days. But no, he was just a stray that showed up here.
That's awesome. So what's a quote or piece of wisdom that's helped guide you that you would like to share with other people?
This is one that is so common that it's become cliche, I guess, but it reminds me of my grandmother. So it's the one that I'm going to use. And that's just the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the wisdom to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And my grandmother was incredibly capable of accepting the things that she couldn't change and finding happiness and joy no matter what the circumstances were in her life. That's what I aspire to. I don't always do a good job, but what an incredible role model that I had in somebody that was able to do that.
That's a good quote. And also it's cool that someone modeled that for you as well.
Yeah.
So I always ask, what does real change mean to you? And what I'm asking is, what's a positive real change that you would like to see in Wilmington?
For me, real change is about unity. There is so much division in our community and in our country right now. And regardless of political leanings or any other differences that we have, to me, the only way that we're going to make our community a better place to live is if we can just embrace each other as humans and see our likeness instead of our difference, and just be kind.
Yeah. Brad, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, no, and we talked about this, and I agree 100%, but there's a reason we're still here. Because we could be anywhere. I mean, I can work anywhere. There's a reason we still live in Wilmington. There's a reason our business is here. And this is a great community. I think that we are very fortunate to live here. And regardless of the differences and the division, and I agree that unity and just understanding and acceptance of one another and our differences is vitally important. But again, I think we're all very fortunate who get to live here in Wilmington and in Clinton County.
Well, how can people connect with you or visit your establishment?
So we're located at 201 East Locust Street, right next to the Kava House. So grab yourself a cup of coffee and come see us. As far as finding us online, it's almasaticwilmington.com. We have Facebook page, which is also Alma's Attic Wilmington, and our eBay store, Alma's Attic Wilmington also. So all of it is branded the same way, so it's easy to find all 3 locations online. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to give us a call, 937-805-4121.
Awesome. Thanks for making the time, and thanks for all you do in the community.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us at your location.
Well, that's it for our podcast today, folks. I hope you enjoyed our interview with Brad and Joni Palmer at Alma's Attic. If you have more questions for them, please feel free to reach out directly, or better yet, visit their store next to Kava House. If they will talk to us dorks, they will certainly talk to you as well, because after all, we are a community of empowered individuals. If you want to get in touch with Real Change Wilmington, you can contact us on our website at realchangewilmington.com, visit our Facebook and Instagram pages, or grab a free copy of our local newspaper at Kroger, Sam's Meat, and Fiesta Veracruz. We currently send our newspaper direct mail to over 2,500 Wilmington residents every month. So if you want to help us cover our printing costs and advertise your local business, event, or job posting, please email us at advertise@realchangewilmington.com. With that, I'm your host, Dustin Pierce. Keep it real, Wilmington.